Hi, in the previous tutorial we showed how to spawn an actor using the level blueprints and how to destroy it. In this next tutorial we're going to use a volume and randomly spawn an actor within that volume. So the first thing we're going to do is create a new actor. We're going to call it spawn volume. Okay, so we open it and we add a collision box or collision, yeah, box collision. No, not a capsule. Sorry, we want a collision box. Let's start typing box. There it goes. Okay, and let's make this the default scene root. If you go directly here on the right hand side, you can see the box extent. So let's make this a little larger. Let's make it 2 meters by 2 meters by no, and let's leave this at 32, the default. Another thing that we'll want to do is make sure that is shown when we play it in the editor so we can debug it properly, right? So if we go now and we place it in the level, you see what it looks like. Now go back into the spawn volume in the event graph, and what we're gonna do is in the event begin play here, let's delete these two, but in the event begin play we want to call a function. So let's use the same timer by event, and we're gonna call this pretty frequently, every 0.1 seconds, and let's make it loop, right? And we're gonna create the delegate here, which we're gonna call spawn object or spawn actor. Okay. Oh, sorry. We need to call it add custom event, and then we name it to spawn actor. Okay. And this spawn actor is gonna call the same function that we've already seen, which is spawn actor by class from class. Okay. And as before, we want to spawn an actor of the type pp underscore bouncing actor. Okay, now as I said, we want to spawn it at a random location but within the box that we have here. Okay, so from here we drag a reference to the box and we're gonna get two pieces of information from it. We're gonna get the world location, oops, and then we're also gonna need to know the size once it's been scaled. So we go and get the scale box extent. All right. So out of this, now we're going to call one of the random functions, which is called get random point. It's called random point in a box, I think. Random point in a bounding box. There it goes. Oh, for a second, I thought I had forgotten. So we pass the origin of our collision box, and then we pass the extent of this box, and this is going to return a point within it, and as before we plug this into the transform, so we have a conversion here from a vector into a transform. All right, so if we do this, we see again here that we're going to call this event begin play once at the beginning, and this is going to set this in motion where we're going to keep looping, and every 0.1 seconds we call this new event that spawns one of our bouncing actors, and it places randomly somewhere within the collision box that we placed in the level. Okay, as a quick trip here, I kind of anal, but if you want to have things well organized, you can come in here, select the boxes that you want to align, and for example, you can use these straight-in connections. That one is pretty handy. Okay, so let's compile, save, go into our level, play, and we see how very quickly we are filling up this volume with spheres. Right? If you look here, you see that we keep adding and adding and adding and so on. Okay, so if we eject our pawn and we go up here, we see how we keep adding and adding these random colored spheres, right? And here on the right hand side, you see how everything keeps growing and growing and growing infinitely. Now let's make a little change here. So we don't spawn we don't spawn a new bouncing actor where we have already a bouncing actor, right? So if you see here in the collision handling override, we could say you know, if there is a collision, we do not spawn, right? So let's do that. Let's try that. And let's take a look here at the right-hand side pane with the wall outliner, and we see how we are not adding as many bouncing actors as before. If we eject here and we move up, right, we see that we have a few here. I see, well, like 5, 11, 12 spheres. We're still trying. We're still every 0.1 seconds. We're calling the spawn actor function, and we're generating random locations within this box. But if the location that is randomly generated produces a new sphere that overlaps with any of the ones that are already there, we are not spawning. So you see here how we are skipping. You know, if you look at the numbers that are appended to the name of the actor, you see how we've skipped, you know, a lot of spheres that they weren't spawned because of the collision, right? So from 59 to 90, there were 31 that were not spawned, and so on. If you wait, you know, there could be that randomly we find a little spot somewhere within the volume that you know, makes room for another one, right? But let's go back and look at our options again. We see here that for the collision options, we have try to adjust location but always spawn. So if select this one, what's going to happen if what we're gonna do is we're gonna try to find a new position with close by, you know, that doesn't have something, you know, a sphere already there. But if it can't find it, it's gonna spawn anyway, right? So the first few spheres are spawned, you know, independent from each other. But as soon as we cannot find a chunk of the volume without the sphere in it, we just keep going, and then we start overlapping, right? And that's why we see that we keep growing and growing and growing. If we go back and we change this to the fourth option, which is try to adjust location, don't spawn if it's still colliding, change that. It basically does what you expect. It's gonna try to spawn, right? By adjusting the location. So if there is a collision between a sphere and the next one that we're trying to spawn, it will try to move it to find the, you know, an empty piece of volume. If it cannot find it, then it doesn't spawn at all, right? So we see here on the right hand side how we are not growing as fast as before. There could be room somewhere around here. So if we wait, or somewhere maybe around here, so if we wait, another sphere will spawn, right? But since we're doing this randomly, it might take quite a few tries until we randomly select, you know, an origin here for another one to be spawned. All right. If you go back now here, you know, we basically we have the do not spawn if we cannot find a new spot for it, right? As a last thing for this tutorial, I want you to pay attention that when we spawned, these spheres, they are all being placed here in the level, right, directly into the level. So the parent is the level. We might want to change that, and we're going to look at that in the next tutorial, right? Do we want to parent them to something else? And if we parent them to something else, how do we configure that parenting depending on the needs that we have for these spheres? Okay, so see you in the next tutorial.